Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Verbalta, and today my presentation is going to be about the international laws in regards to human trafficking. The first thing that we have to answer is, what is international law? International law is a body of rules established by custom or treaty and recognized by nations as binding in their relations with one another. So, in simpler terms, basically, international law is the set of rules or agreements that are binding between countries so that we have an established set of laws that we all agree upon. Another question that we have to answer is, what does international law involve in regards to human trafficking? Well, it involves the human rights, the treatment of refugees, so how we treat these individuals who have been brought into our country or other countries, the prosecution for international crimes, so the punishment that will be given to those individuals who commit these human trafficking crimes, and the fair treatment of those prisoners who have committed these crimes, and also deciding when the state can use force. So, having those common laws where all countries agree on when a state is capable of using their own force. The following are going to be statistics in regards to human trafficking in a global perspective. So, about 600,000 to 800,000 people are trafficked globally every single year. Out of that 600,000 to 800,000 people, about 80% of them are women and half are children. There are also about 40.3 million victims of human trafficking globally, which is a very large number. The next statistic is the forced labor and human trafficking industry is about $150 billion industry. So imagine if that $150 billion could be allocated to something else. That's a lot of money. And then finally, 1 out of 7 endangered runaways were likely child sex trafficking victims. The following slides are going to all be about a protocol that was created by the United Nations in order to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. And this was created by the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. There are 3 purposes to this protocol. The first purpose being to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, particularly paying attention to women and children, since they are the majority of victims who are trafficked. The second purpose of this protocol is to protect and assist the victims of trafficking and making sure that their human rights are respected to the fullest. The third purpose is to promote cooperation among state parties in order to meet these 2 objectives. Because as long as both parties are in cooperation, then prosecution of the criminal will be possible, and also protecting the victim and further helping the victim will also be possible. Now, the way that this protocol can help in the protection of victims of trafficking in persons is by protecting the privacy and identity of the victims, because keeping that safe and keeping that hidden is going to help the victims heal from everything that they've been through. The second is to ensure that all legal and administrative systems contain measures that they can provide to victims. For example, giving the victims information on some court and administrative proceedings so that they're able to be informed about exactly what is going on. Also, to provide assistance for the victims to be able to show their views and concerns during the criminal proceedings against the offenders. Another way that we can help in protecting these victims is giving them appropriate housing, because most of these individuals are taken from their homes, taken from their countries, and they don't have a place to stay. So providing that housing is extremely important. Giving them counseling and information about counseling in order to further help their process of healing the crime that they've been through, as well as providing medical and psychological assistance, and giving them employment and education and proper training opportunities so that they can bounce back and become a part of the community again. Now we're going to discuss the way that this protocol helps to prevent trafficking. One way is by establishing policies and programs and other different types of measures in order to help prevent and combat trafficking, and making sure that we can protect these victims of trafficking from being re victimized and having to go through all this stuff all over again. Another way of prevention is by doing research, looking up information, creating media campaigns, social and economic initiatives in order to prevent and combat trafficking. All of these outlets are ways in which we can help prevent against trafficking, as well as including cooperation with other relevant organizations so that we can have their help in establishing ways of prevention. The final way is to adopt and strengthen legislative and other measures in order to discourage the demand that fosters forms of exploitation of persons that leads to human trafficking. So as long as we do have that strengthened legislative, then we're able to help discourage the ways in which people think that human trafficking is okay. Border measures are also extremely important with this protocol, because this is how we can combat against human trafficking and making sure that humans aren't being pushed around and crossed over borders and being taken from one country to the other. So, with border measures, strengthening the border controls in order to prevent and detect trafficking is crucial. Also, making sure that commercial carriers and other types of transportation companies have the required documentation for all passengers who are on their um, commercial carriers and any other types of vehicles. Another type of border measure is to make sure that each state has the proper measures in order to permit the denial of certain entries or taking away certain visas of people who they believe shouldn't be crossing the border. And finally, strengthening the cooperation among border control agencies by establishing direct channels of communication, because as long as there is communication, then the proper measures can be taken in order to provide border control. And then finally, we ask, why do we need international law? What's its purpose? Why is it so significant in regards to human trafficking? Well, international law helps prosecuting individuals who are from other countries that commit crime in the countries that they cross. So these people who traffic the individuals from other countries into a different country, it helps prosecuting those people. It helps to prevent individuals from being forced into other countries. Um, that way, the transition is smoother into being able to get them back to where they originally came from. It helps to prevent victimization. So, these individuals are already going to be traumatized because they've been taken from their countries, but we can make sure that it stops at that point and that they don't receive even further victimization. International laws help to prevent crime. And finally, it makes the prosecution transition smoother because all states and parties are going to be on the same page. It helps to make sure that the criminal and the offender is prosecuted correctly. And that concludes my presentation on international law. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.